You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of ShopPay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pup, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you. I know I say that all the time. I know. I hope you don't get tired of me saying it because I really do mean it. There are a billion things you could be doing with your time, and the fact that you are spending them right here with me right now really does mean a lot. So thank you very much. This week, I am talking to a legend. Let's be honest. I'm talking to my new friend, Tracii Guns of LA Guns. LA Guns was an extremely influential band out of the Sunset Strip scene back in the heyday of hair metal, and they are still rocking to this day. Tracii was also a founding member of a little band called Guns N' Roses, so to say he's had some impact on the music world would be the understatement of the decade, century? Yeah, maybe century. Anyhow, you'll notice something here in this episode. Tracii and I pretty much hit the ground running, and that is because he came on the Chasing Tone podcast here, about a month and a half ago. And as many of you are aware, but some of you aren't, I am a co-host on that one with my friends Richard Oliver and Brian Wampler. So go check that out if you've never listened to Chasing Tone before. Anyhow, Tracii and I had a great time on that episode. I had actually already invited him on before I knew he was going to do Chasing Tone, so we delayed it a little bit so it wouldn't be just back to back to back, but we hit the ground running on this one. We hit it absolutely running, and it is great. We talk tone, we talk life, we talk dad stuff. We definitely get into a lot of gear stuff. So you're going to like this episode. It's pretty well-rounded, and Tracii and I had a ton of fun. I think you're really going to enjoy this chat. So without further ado, let's get into it. That's a good start. I like this.
This is going to be different.
This is going to be good.
Because normally when I do podcasts, they're for specific companies and stuff.
Right.
So I don't dive like with Dave, with Friedman, it's like amps, right? Mm-hmm. And we stay in the Marshall kind of groove. And then when the other thing we did with Brian, it's like, I don't want to talk about other pedals. I want to talk about Brian's stuff, Right. So here, you and I get to really talk about a lot of cool stuff, like other stuff.
We can talk about whatever, that's the beauty of it. This. But I'm going to be in bad trouble if I don't do my intro. This would be the first one where I never did it. So I'm going to do it real quick.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today I have Tracii Guns. Woo! But yeah, that is the beauty of this show is while it is generally guitar based, it also could be, alien based. It could be car based. It could be whatever happens to pop out of our mouths based. So that's the fun part.
Yeah, no, I'm into it. I brought a a pile of things that I'm going to highly recommend.
Ooh.
In the real world. And I want to talk about some stuff that people are scared of, that they
Okay.
should be scared of. And I mean, you and I agree on a lot of stuff. So this should be really fun. And I already see you wearing the satellite hat, and I see a little
yes.
back there. And this is the cool stuff.
I'm a nerd about all of it. And yeah, the satellite, I got a Rev back there, I got a Victory back there, Benson, and they're all like, become friends. You know how this stuff goes.
Oh yeah, this is great.
Yeah. I did say I wanted to start out with a story, because this is something that's like, how we all have these weird little musical experiences, and this is going to take a little bit of time, but not too long. So I grew up in a household listening to outlaw country, Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And 90s country, because that was what was popular at the time. So, but it was pretty much a country house. So I didn't get a lot of exposure to very much rock outside of maybe ZZ Top as a kid.
Okay.
And so I'm about 11 years old. Go over to my buddy's house. I'm spending the night, and he's showing me Aerosmith, and he's showing me all this stuff. And he's busting out his dad's cassette collection. This is like,
perfect.
This is good stuff. And he pulls out this tape, and it is the LA Guns self-titled 1988, And I was like, what is that? I want to know what that is. That's cool. It's got guns on it.
It's no bueno. I love it.
Yeah. And so we put it on, and I was just like, wow, this is a different thing that I've never really heard before. So it was like, your band was some of my earliest exposure to that type of music.
Wow.
Not just like kind of the LA scene from that time. Yes, that, but also just rock in general. Like harder rock. So this is cool for me. Yeah.
That's amazing. And, it's funny because outside of just being a completely selfish musician, that's all I ever really wanted out of it is if someone could listen to something I wrote and recorded and go, damn, that's cool. I'm into this. That's all that was like my only hope, let's say. It's like, and the more I hear it, for the last like 40 years now, it's just, it never gets old. I mean, that's what dreams are made of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we got to, chatting on the interwebs and stuff, it was especially cool for me.
Awesome.
And then the mini story that just happened, I was down getting a little bit of tattoo touch up done. And the guy doing it, he kind of knew I did the podcast and yada, yada, yada. So like, he was just, what do you got going on? I'm like, I got a really cool episode I'm doing with Tracii Guns later. And the owner of the shop was like, kind of did one of those, what? I didn't even really know he was listening. We were just shooting the breeze. Yeah. And he's like, you're doing a what? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm recording a podcast with Tracii Guns from LA Guns. He's like, I listen to LA Guns every day.
Wow.
I'm like, whoa. He's like, well, you're going to have to let me know how that goes. I'm like, you'll be able to listen to it for yourself. So,
that's awesome. I mean,
you're making all kinds of connections right now.
There's no accounting. There's no accounting for bad taste, so I'll take it.
But yeah, so this is fun. So you said you brought some stuff, and we could go into a million different places. We could go down the career path, and I'm sure we'll get into some of that. But you got a bunch of gear sitting there, and I got a feeling you want to talk about it.
Yeah, because I just started. I've had a YouTube channel for like 11 years that I never used, and I never really watched YouTube except for like insane kind of science stuff, and I just like not really haven't been interested. And then I started getting more and more products, and the best place to see products is on YouTube, and really got involved in like listening to people's comments and their opinions and the whole gatekeeping kind of mentality and stuff like that. And, there's so much myth that because we have the internet, there's so many things that people hold on to that And if you tell yourself something enough times, it becomes true, right?
Right.
But what people expect from me, and here's a story.
All right.
That I was kind of unaware of myself. Normally when we play live, I bring out a pile of amps, some vintage ones, and then RJS amplifiers. They build my Marshalls, basically. They build me 100-watt JMPs in a small box with an effects loop, and they're awesome. They're hand wired and blah blah. All the gatekeepers is in those amps, right?
Right.
They're the ones. But nobody needs that. Okay? Let me just get that out there right now. If you're, my age, or if you're a purist and you want to have these things, it's wonderful. They're great, and they do what they're supposed to do, and they're efficient. However, and you and I talked about this briefly, the Katana and the Catalyst by Line 6 and by Roland Boss, you can't get anything better than that. You can't. You plug into it, and let's say, I want it to sound like a Marshall with a tube screamer. You're there in 5 seconds. 5 seconds. It's there. And, one of the comments that I see a lot of the time is that guitar players, they listen with their eyes.
It's true.
They see something that looks authentic and like a 59 Cadillac. So that's got to be the best. That's where it's at. But I'm going to tell you, man, for me, I can't do the direct modeling thing. That's just because of the way I've come up playing with 3 Marshall stacks behind me. I need the air moving. So that's never going to change for me personally. However, I still use that. But for years, like 6 years now, 7 years, I've had a head rush running into the power sections of those amps because I'm getting everything I absolutely need and more. It's quiet. There's no cables. And it's just amazing. So we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
But with these new amplifiers, where you have a 100-watt 212 Katana, Jesus Christ, man. It's like...
It's loud.
I wish my Marshall rig sounded like that. It's like, it's so easy and so loud. And I think that's one thing that people are scared of is like, oh, it's amp modeler, and how could it, sound like good, loud, and push that kind of air? I don't know how they do it. That's not my job. That's not your job. But they do it. They nail it. You get the thwack. You get the Marshall glass on top. That real picky kind of thing. It's all there. So I just want, if anybody has misgivings about these kinds of things, it's like, you shouldn't. My friend Rob Echeverria, who was in Biohazard and Helmet, who's a high gain guy, I told him to go out and get a Catalyst. And he went and got one. He loves the amp. And then some of my, she friends came to see me play at the Whiskey at New Year's. And they're like, dude, you can't play out of a 112. I was using the Catalyst that night. You can't play out of a 112 combo amp modeler. I'm like, that's like the least coolest thing that like any of your fans want to see. And it bummed me out so hard. It just bummed me out because it's like, I reflected it down. I go, yeah, I guess people do come to look at my gear, but other than that, for sound quality, for ease of use, and me being comfortable with the way the rig is set up, it's awesome. It's like, hey man, so now I'm doing other stuff, but there are so many solutions, right? There's amp modelers and stuff, but I like to get stuff that's under $500. That's where I think we're at, kind of in the real world. They do the church gigs and the club gigs, and all that stuff, and I'll just start with this because this is such a great solution, is this Black Star thing.
Oh, those do look cool. Yeah.
Amp too. It's 100-watt amplifier.
Those things look awesome. I remember when those dropped. Those are cool looking.
It's crazy. So, obviously for someone like me or you just put it on the Black Star Classic channel, crank the gain up. It's got a distortion pedal built in, modulation, delay, tap, reverb. You pick the kind of tube emulation you want, plug it into a 412 cabinet. That's it.
There you go.
That's it. And these are a little more like $600 or $700. But, somebody that just wants to feel like they have an amp and in control and a pedal board all in one, has an effects loop, and you're kind of done. Like it's just, they couldn't have made it easier for you.
Yeah. And that's great for flying. That's great for even if you're not flying, even if you are just like doing a van thing or even just a local gig. I mean, it's so simple. It's it's beautiful.
It is. And it's like, I'm just like you, I got the room full of everything, and when I make records in there, I use all that stuff because it makes me, I'm listening with my eyes, I'm looking at my Silvertone Twin and my JMPs, my Plexis, and
it feels good.
It feels good, right? It's a vibe, it's a vibe, and I'll never get rid of those things. Some things I am going to get rid of because they're just redundant at this point. It's just stupid to hold on to doubles of things. But if you're like, let's say you're 30 years old right now and you never had a Marshall half stack or a Fender Twin or something like that, I don't recommend it. I just don't. I just don't recommend it because it's you get used to what you grow up playing through, and whatever you're comfortable with as a kid using, that's your comfort zone, and that kind of stays your comfort zone forever. It's kind of like Neil Young still playing through his Tweed Deluxe. Mm-hmm. That's his comfort zone. He's like, I know it's only this big, but it does what I want it to do, and I put it up there on a chair, and I plug my Les Paul in, and it sounds like me. Mm-hmm. So there are just so many great things available, cheap, and you don't have to worry about Fender or Marshall going out of business. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to pay like some kind of weird fealty or loyalty to these huge companies. They're not going to get upset at you, if you don't buy that stuff. I mean, it's cool to have a Strat and a Tele and a Les Paul and a Marshall and a Deluxe, But I think beyond that, you should do whatever you want, whatever is like your personality, and have fun with it. And because now that I've been on YouTube, I saw some guy today just running Marshall and Fender into the ground. Like, why on earth would you take 30 minutes out of your life to rant about huge corporations that you're going to use their gear anyway?
Right.
So I noticed a couple real negative videos, and I was just like, it kind of made me sad. It's like, that's not what the guitar community is about. We're a small community.
Oh yeah, very.
People don't realize that, and it's like everything in 2025 sounds great. I mean, if it doesn't, I don't know what went wrong, because everything's based off of something else that already sounded good.
It's a weird thing. The one thing that I've been getting into, I'm good friends with Ryan Burke from the 60 Cycle Hum YouTube channel, and he's a goofball. Cool, he's such a stud, and he's hilarious. But we had a podcast a couple weeks ago, and one of the things we talked about was, and it just came up again. I'm friends with a lot of the YouTubers because awesome. We're all making content for a living and all this stuff. But we were talking about the conspiracy theories in the guitar industry. There's a lot of people who are enthusiasts of the gear world, seemingly. I don't know why you'd be listening to this podcast or watching these YouTube videos if you weren't interested in that kind of stuff, right? But they seem to miss the fact that what you just said is true. It's very small. I mean, as big as Fender is, right? They're a monster in this industry. As I've said multiple times recently, and I hope they don't get mad at me for it, but they're owned by a Hawaiian car dealership.
Are they really?
Yeah. This industry is just so small. Even though Fender is a big company, don't get me wrong. They're they're doing millions of dollars a year. But I mean, Harman was a rounding error for Samsung, so they got rid of it. It wasn't. It's a big company to us, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't even though it was profitable and making money, keeping Digitech on the books wasn't even worth it for Samsung. They would rather have just closed it down. It's crazy for us to imagine, but this industry what I usually say is it's barely big enough to be an industry.
Right.
Everybody knows each other, and we. Go ahead.
What kind of saved it a little bit was the pandemic, because during the pandemic, I was in Denmark, and my best buddy over there owns a music store that coincidentally, despite of what I'm saying, went bankrupt after 2 years. But during that time, he had sold more keyboards in 18 months than he did in the previous 31 years.
Wow.
People coming in. And then I'm friends with Cesar from Gibson. I was talking to him. That first year of the lockdown was their biggest year in guitar sales. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people were, whipping out the credit card and having stuff delivered to their homes, and they were learning music and they were playing music and recording music and doing stuff. But overall, I agree that, we're not in a Guitar Hero world. Our world is, but there's a whole rest of the world out there, and they don't get
No. Well, one thing that I find is a little bit interesting, and I have this theory, and here again, I'm just repeating things I've said before. Sorry, listeners, but we have this view that the guitar world and the music gear world is shrinking, and that's what the big companies will tell you. But like the president of NAMM, he even said it, in a call that I was on with him, like the industry is shrinking, and I actually push back on that a little bit, because when they say that, they're usually citing the larger companies that report to music trades, and that's true for a lot of those companies. But what I think it ignores is the thousands and thousands of small builders, all of the weird stuff coming overseas, I think it's just fractured, because I feel like guitar is fairly stable. It is the icon of Western music culture, and that has proliferated throughout the globe. I don't think guitar's ever going away at this point. No. As long as our civilization survives, basically. I think it's pretty locked in. But at least I hope so.
It is, and for better or worse, the younger generation, they're finding the less costly ways to get there, like the Harley Bentons, there's companies that make great gear that's cheap, somebody that's 19 right now, 9 out of those 10 guitar players aren't looking at Jimmy Page's Les Paul anymore. They're looking at whatever guys there that are playing, and if they can get a reasonable facsimile of, some hot rodded cool thing with a locking tremolo, then that's what they're going to do. They're going to get an amp modeler, and they're going to sound great everywhere they go. And so it's shifting. And I'm old, dude. I'm 59 now. I'm way past middle age, and I still feel like a kid. And so my friends are the ones that own vintage guitar shops. You know what I mean? And stuff like that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, guys that are 10, 20 years older than me, they're dying, right? So, you're finding great deals on dead guy's gear, and because of that, there's a lot less older people that are really interested in collecting the vintage stuff like it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15, like that.
Yeah.
So the vintage gear scene is I think it's the hardest hit as far as, the cash economy of, swapping out, bartering, doing that kind of stuff, because the prices are coming down and people still don't need it. They still don't want it, But, the cool stuff, like my friend over in Copenhagen, he has a repair shop, Java Guitars over there, the Java Guitars. And it's a little cool shop. That guy gets at least one guitar a day coming in, at least, for repair. And he really specializes in 60s Japanese, strange, cool vintage guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And, so there's a lot of guitars like that are being found, and you can buy them for $100, $200, $300, bring it in for an $85 setup, and then you're like the coolest kid on the block. So that's happening too.
It's yeah, and I think that got propelled. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing when I was growing up. I knew Gibson, Fender, Ibanez, like all the big brands, basically.
Right.
But it was like Jack White was my guy that introduced me to those weird guitars. Yeah. Not personally, I wish that'd be cool. Yeah. But
but yeah, that's one guy I haven't met either. I'd love to meet that guy.
Yeah, he seems like a freaking stud. But but those weird offbeat guitars are something that I'm kind of into and want to get a little more into it, because I used to have one that I still kick myself for getting rid of, but I didn't even know that was like a world that people obsessed over until 2013, or something. Like, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
But now that's a segment of the market. There's just so many. For something that's as simple as it is, 6 strings, couple magnets stuck to a piece of wood at the end of the day. Wow, there are a lot of variants. There's a lot of ways to do that.
It's such a great hobby, and I really consider myself more of a hobbyist. I mean, I have a career as a recording artist, and as a performer, but I really love guitars and amps and pedals and talking to people like you. And that's what I've done my whole career, is it's about these great relationships with other enthusiasts,
Mm-hmm.
and, it's the one job that I was so stupid enough to think that this would be my job when I was 17. So I didn't learn anything else, and I got really lucky, but I can't imagine having a different job where I wake up every day and I'm this enthusiastic about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can relate to that. That I was so into this. I had a completely different career. Yeah. I was a mechanic, and I was working in the oil industry, and I was doing all that, and I was like, man, this is lame. All I want to do is talk about guitar stuff. Yeah. I want to just do guitar stuff. And I was like, how do I get in? How do I get into it? I'm not going to tour. I'm not going to perform. That's not my thing. I don't really want to do that. What am I going to do? I don't want to open a store. That seems like a expensive and difficult way to go about it. What's this internet stuff? Maybe I can start a podcast.
Yeah.
And so 2015, I started knocking on people's digital doors and like, you want to come on my podcast? And the response was usually, what's a podcast? And, right. Yeah, it was a long way to get here, but I was just like you. I'm like, I couldn't imagine anything else that would be this exciting. I literally look forward to Monday. Yeah. That's not a thing that I ever dreamed would happen. I look forward to when the weekend's over, I can get back to work. This is going to be great.
Yeah. It gives you freedom as well, to live your life the way that you want and make your own schedule. You're not on somebody else's schedule, and, there's really two kinds of people that way. There are people that really need that regimented schedule and job, to make them feel accomplished and that they're providing for themselves or their family, whatever it is, and they find that security in that kind of thing. And then there's people that have a brain like we do, where we just got to go for it. We got to figure it out and kind of do it on our own so we can have freedoms. And, our kids get to grow up a little bit differently and, with a kind of hopefully a bigger view of the world because, we're reaching out to people.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Rocky.
What's up, Vincent?
Did you hear about the latest?
Latest what?
The latest drop from Maris. It's totally insane.
No, tell me more.
Maris just released Enzo X.
What's that?
Enzo X is a supernova expansion from the original Enzo into the highest quality and most flexible studio synthesizer ever created in a pedal format.
Whoa!
Enzo X combines 5 synth types, 5 drives, 3 reverbs, and 5 modulations. It also includes a full 2.5 second stereo delay, all in one pedal.
That sounds hard to use.
It's not. The UI is from the same family as the Mercury X and the LVX. It's super easy to dive in and see exactly what you are tweaking in real time.
Oh, I see. It's right there on the screen.
Yep.
Is it just for guitars, though?
Nope. You can plug almost anything into the Enzo X, including your MIDI controller.
That sounds incredible. Where do I get it?
You can pick up Enzo X online at maris.us or at any of their fine retailers across the globe.
Did you just say across the globe?
They know what I meant.
Wait, are we getting paid for this?
I'm still waiting on that cash money from last time.
He better at least give us pizza for dinner.
I'm not giving him his Enzo X back until he does.
For more information, make sure you check out maris.us, and apparently I have to go order a pizza. How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services. And it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
It's important.
It is. Yeah. And I think that what you said there is really crucial. It's not like one way is better than the other. I think recognizing your wiring and going at it from that angle. My dad's wired different than me. He's more the other way. A lot of people, most people I know, honestly, are more wired with the like, hey, let me just punch in and punch out. And when I'm punched out, I don't have to worry about it. I don't even have to think about it. Whereas you and I never stop thinking about it. That's right. So if you're not wired to where that's okay for you on a mental health level, then you shouldn't go try to strike it out on you. And you should go work for somebody else and let them worry about it. I think that's totally fine. But recognizing your wiring, my son's, he's only 9, but he keeps kind of saying like, I want to do this when I grow up. I want to do that. And I'm like, Are you sure? Because you seem a little like me. And then so
Right.
I'm not sure if you actually want to do that. Just if you do, that's fine. I'm not going to try to push him one way or the other. I just think
Yeah.
about your own mental wiring when pursuing your career. And that's going to get you a lot further on the happiness scale, I think. Maybe not on the pay scale, but on the happiness scale for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and the fact that maybe he's changing his mind often on what he really wants to do is a sign that he's going to do something that he gravitates to more than making a decision of. Because my oldest son, Jagger, 16, he's not into music, and the music that he is into a little bit is country music. He even when he was little, he liked the Stones and John Denver, and now that he's 16, he digs country music. We don't listen to music together, which is so weird, but he also, he's an extremely successful academic. Those are his priorities. He knows exactly what he's going to do and how he's going to get there and how he's going to get through college and how it's going to be paid for. I can't relate to it. All I can do is be proud, like, wow, you're like that kid that we all read about when we were kids. Like, this is the right way to be.
Right.
And, me or his mother, we've never pushed him in any direction. Like you were saying, we just watched him, kind of rebel against his parents' lifestyle, which in a way it is, because he's like, oh, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to go travel. I don't want to be away from home. I don't want to have to worry that sometimes I have tons of money and then sometimes I don't have very much money, so he kind of, and it's the same with me anyways. I learned from my parents what not to do more than when I learned what to do, and I think, that's the right kind of thing is like, unless your kid is going some strange negative track, I don't feel there's really any reason to get involved with your opinion because they're even at 9, he's going to be 11 before you know it. And they start rejecting your opinion. Like they really, they don't want to know, and, but yeah, I mean, we can learn a lot from those little guys.
So that's actually an interesting thing. I didn't think about it until you started talking about it, but we always start your story whenever I've heard it told from you or anyone else pretty like relatively late, like in your teenage years. But
Yeah.
what was life like when you were a kid? Was your family musical at all, or how did that?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, my mom, she's a very accomplished classical pianist, and played pedal steel. She's really into old school country.
Yeah.
And she took lessons from Red Rose, and she did that thing. And from the age of like 7, I was improvising to her, accompanying LPs. She had LPs that she would play and play along to those things. So, that's an early memory of me putting on those records and just immediately skipping over the major key stuff, because I knew the minor pentatonic. So,
right.
So you get to the major keys and I'd be like, I don't get this. I don't know what this is, And my dad, on the other hand, and they're, what I call kind of post hippies, my parents, like they were a little too young during, when I was born, like, they were 18 when I was born, and all their friends were older hippies and they were younger hippies. And then all of a sudden there I was. So my uncle, who ultimately taught me to play guitar and started me, he's a long haired ass hippie, and so I was surrounded by that environment from day one, from 1966 until, like 1978, 79, when punk rock and new wave came in and Van Halen 1 came out and stuff like that. When I was, like 12 years old, 11, 12, 13, where I really stepped outside of my musical family. Like even my granddad, he played ragtime piano.
Okay.
So like I heard all this stuff, my dad playing acoustic guitar, my uncle playing classic rock. And so, yeah, I mean, it was around me. But the inspiring thing for me, there's two things. You know, when I was just before I turned 6, I heard a whole lot of love, and the breakdown with the theremin and the Wizard of Oz sounding stuff. I had to know what that was, like in an impactful way. Like, what is that sound? And that's kind of been my life's journey, is like trying to do something even 10% as cool as that breakdown in that one song. And then my uncle playing guitar in front of me, and handing me the guitar, when I was 6, and saying, here's, Pinball Wizard, stop talking to me while I'm studying. And that was the beginning of the end of my life, really, because I mean, that's where all the nuts and bolts fell in place. The guitar became my friend. I could be creative with it right away. So it wasn't ever about learning songs or anything. I mean, I had to learn songs here and there because, oh, I love that song. I got to learn how it goes. But as soon as I understood just a little bit about how it worked, I did my own thing, and that's why, we talk about the hobby of it and the enthusiasts. It's like, no matter what, I'd still be doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like, you just can't. There's certain things you can't run from. At some point, you're like, this is what I'm into, and this is what I'm going to do, whether I make money at it or not. I might, be working at a grocery store or something, but my brain is going to be on this. And that was part of the realization I had. I was like, well, what do you not I wouldn't actually know I wanted to do anything in the guitar space specifically at first.
Right.
It was more of a realization that I was just unhappy doing what I was doing.
Right.
I was like, this is the thing you worked so hard for, and the thing that you thought you wanted, and you did all the things to try to get here, and you're still bummed every time you wake up. You're only happy when you come home, basically. So
that's
what's the deal here?
Well, the deal is that, when you accomplish some little melody, right, you get a dopamine hit. You literally get happy. Like, you get your wiring lubricates, and for a short amount of time, you're a little bit euphoric, right? Let's say. Mm-hmm. That's why we have these guys that we're able to look at now on the internet that are just extraordinarily fantastic players, because they're not getting the rush so much from playing live and putting albums out, but they're getting that rush from the internet now, right? So the better they are and the more constructive they are and just, whatever, they're getting their dopamine hits. They're like, and the better you are, the more satisfied you're going to be. And then you get, what, I don't really want to get into therapy, but a therapist would say, you get this empty ghost effect, where you get all this praise from people you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so it's empty, but who cares if it's empty? If it makes you feel good, you're only here, for a certain amount of time. Why not feel good? Why not do something that releases this dopamine, brings other people joy while it's bringing you joy? So really the addiction to the instrument is a physical addiction. It's a great thing, but it's a positive habit. It's a positive addiction.
You hit on something there. That's interesting. I never thought about it that way, but that is a big portion of it. What is the definition of an addiction? It's like something you will do no matter what, basically. I don't know if that's the official definition, but you'll do basically no matter what the consequences are, you're going to do it. And that can be very, very, very bad.
It can be.
But in this case, not typically. It's
Right.
not typically a bad thing.
Well, it can be, because let's say you're of the mindset where you want to learn the solo to Stairway to Heaven, right? And you do it the right way. You learn it lick by lick. And then, the guy that accomplishes the whole thing, imagine that dopamine rush by going all the way through it, with all the little, details and everything. That is an amazing sense of accomplishment after doing the work and all the psychological work that goes into music, right?
Yeah.
But let's say, and this is when people quit. You go to your guitar teacher, it's week 1, And you're like, I want to play the solo for Stairway to Heaven. And the teacher goes, well, that's a great goal. But, let's first look at what key it's in and how that works with a pentatonic minor scale and, how it moves with the 3 chords under the solo, right? That's a defining moment because either the person is going to be, oh, I can't wait to learn that stuff and get into it and learn it. And then there's the other one's like, that's too much work. I don't care. Right? It's the same as anything. It's like, I thought I wanted this hobby, but this hobby is way too frustrating for me. I don't have the attention span. Or you're like, wow, I just learned. That's all you learn, but you accomplished a huge thing. Your brain thinks that. It's like, I just did that. And that's, you can't buy that. That's the real deal.
It's one of the things about doing anything hard, right?
Yeah.
Doing anything hard and accomplishing that feels amazing.
Yeah.
And doing things that are easy and accomplishing it, like it's nobody's like, oh, hooray, you picked your sock up off the floor. Nobody cares, right?
Right.
You don't even care. You're just like, oh, I got to do that because I don't want to be a horrible slob. But
right.
No one's giving you a medal for it, nor should they.
Yeah.
But if you,
by the way,
yeah.
I told Shermy that I was coming on, and she just texted me back. She said, "Hi, Blake."
Oh, hi, Shermy. She's amazing.
Yeah,
that was a very popular episode too. People really loved her episode. That was great.
She's so unique, and she's so definitely defined. And talk about an enthusiast. Her whole lifestyle is based around the mid-century modern, kind of cheeky, cool colors and all that stuff, being authentic from a different time. Like that's kind of her addiction, but at the same time, total rocker,
total
loves hockey. Like she's one of my coolest friends by a mile.
For the listeners who don't know who we're talking about, Shermy from the Suffragettes, she was on, I don't know, maybe a month ago, somewhere in that. It's in the back catalog. If you haven't listened to that one or watched that one, definitely go do it. But what I had no idea about her was we have this weird parallel connection that I never would have guessed. And that she used to work on heavy equipment as like a diesel mechanic.
Yeah.
I was like, well, did we just become best friends? Because so did I for years and years and years. And she's the one fixing the tour van when it breaks down. And she had a hilarious story about doing something for some high-powered Canadian and fixing his lawnmower. I don't know. She wasn't super specific about who that was, but it was a funny story regardless. But she's a I wouldn't say jack of all trades because she's actually a master of a few too. Yeah. So she can just do a lot of things.
Her stepdad is very hands-on. Like he builds things. He built her pedal board, for example. The physicality of it, and has taught her, how to shovel snow and everything up there. And so like she has a really good amount of respect for that guy. And I think that it really shows in everything she do. She's a total do-it-yourselfer. Like it's just incredible. And it's such a cool guitar player. And we've been friends for like 3 years now. And we always have a laugh. And when things get serious, in life, we're always the first one to reach out to each other to talk about. So she's a real person. She's awesome.
Yeah, that's super cool. How did you get to meet her?
Somebody sent me an Instagram link and like, hey, have you seen the Suffragettes? Because I'm really into garage rock. Like that's where my Yardbirds is totally my guilty pleasure. Like, Zeppelin's my band, but Yardbirds, the development is the most interesting thing in the world to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by listening to the Yardbirds and things that influence the Yardbirds, like to me, that's the most interesting, weird, wacky, experimental sounding stuff still in a song format. And that's what I love about garage rock is they're trying all this space stuff, but it's still a song, you know, and to me, the song is what carries the value of the musician. That's just my opinion. But so my friend, maybe it's Mark Christian, Merle Jagger, you know, send me this link. I see Shermie and she's playing Inagata Davida, you know, like with Surfer Jet, surf style. I'm like, oh man. So I just hit her up. I'm like, man, I can't wait to see your band, you know, amazing. And then she was kind of like you in a way where she's like, oh man, you know, sex action.
Right.
like, oh shit. You know. And so I was on tour with Tom Kiefer, I remember, and we just built a friendship, you know, just online and talking about gear and her albums and how she records them and how they're produced and how her and Nicole write the stuff and all that stuff. And it just really aligned with more of my values than, say, a lot of the like most of the people I learned from how to engineer and stuff, they're in the big production world, you know, like they, you know, high gain guitars, slick sounds, you know, really great use of compression and reverbs and things that make albums sound like amazing, epic albums. But I don't really like music that sounds like that. You know what I mean? I get it and I see the value of it. But put Van Halen in a room playing with one microphone and I'm happy. You know, it's like, wow. You know, same with Pantera. Like Pantera gives me that feeling of just like, damn, that band is kicking ass. You know what I mean? You know, and you know, and that's what Surfer Jets really is it's like kind of this thing where Shermie feels like as long as they keep their tone and their image, they can play any style of music with the tone and the image, and it's Surfer Jets. You know, they don't have to rely on somebody singing and ruining the songs. And like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, the point comes across without a singer. And how many bands can say that?
It's very, very unusual. It's funny that you say that. That was one of the car conversations with my kid yesterday. He's like, what is your favorite music that doesn't have any lyrics? And I was like,
Wow.
oh, that's tough. But you know what came to mind immediately? I was like, oh, John Williams. Basically everything he's ever done.
Oh, yeah. There's a couple. There's definitely Bert Jansch. He actually wrote Black Mountainside. It was called Black Riverside or something, and he wrote something else that Page took. But he's I think he's Scottish, could be Irish, folk guitars from the '60s. I can listen to him do it because he's like Tommy Emmanuel, where he's not only playing the chords of a song, but he's also playing a melody with the chords. You know,
right.
one guy. So it's very, very songy. And then, of course, anything Beethoven ever wrote, you know, it's just
of
like,
course.
wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, but for a band, it's a tough call.
There are more like I really like, you know, some of the more ambient stuff like Explosions in the Sky or something like that. But it was just like, it was funny that I couldn't. It was hard for me at first, even though once I sat down and thought about it, there's a ton. But at first I was like, I don't know. Oh, the Jurassic Park theme song. Yeah, that's it. Because that song's amazing. If you just look at it totally on its own, it's incredible.
Yeah.
You want to get goosebumps, go watch, like, I watched the Oregon Symphony do John Williams.
Really?
That was awesome live. So cool.
Yeah, I will. I'll watch it.
It's a good stuff that you can, I'm sure they got something in LA that's similar at some point, you know, just it's worth an evening. It's a fun experience.
Yeah. We definitely have a lot of orchestras playing here, you know. We got the Hollywood Bowl, for Christ's sakes.
Oh yeah. There you go. Get out of town.
I've never been there.
Ever?
I've never been to the Hollywood Bowl.
It seems like you would have played it like 4 times.
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
I know. But wherever somebody lives, they're likely to miss out on some cool things because they take them for granted. That's just the way it goes.
True. Yeah, there's a handful of things here in Portland. They're like, you've never been to XYZ. I'm like, I've seen it. I drove by it a few times. But
amazing. Are you friends with Chris Benson?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, we're super tight. We live like 10 minutes from each other. We hang out on a regular basis. Yeah.
Oh, he's just one of my favorite people on this planet. He's
fantastic.
Because he knows I'm a head rush guy, and he knows that I always wanted, I wore his T-shirt for 5 years straight on stage. Like, I have 5 Benson T-shirts. And so he made me these 212 cabinets with leopard skin and with matching 700-watt Class D heads, and I just plugged the head rush right into the front, and they got volume knobs.
There you go.
And so I always appreciate him on so many levels. And then somebody else from Portland is, I think his name Dan from Blammo Electronics.
I don't know him, but I know his company.
Yeah. I mean, he just sent me some cool stuff, and my cousins, the daughters of my uncle that taught me to play guitar, they live in Portland now.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Portland's cool. So
then that means, so now that I didn't know that you knew Chris that well, but now that I know you know him, so since we've been doing a lot of dad talk on this too, the Benson Vincent,
yeah,
that's my oldest son. That's
what, really,
yeah. The Benson that's back there, that's Vincent number 1. So he made the Vinny for me as a custom job. This is like before he was doing, I think right when he started being full time with Benson amps.
Okay.
I had a Monarch that he made for me, and I loved it. And I called him up and I said, "Hey, my first kid was just born, and I want to make him a toy that looks like mine, basically." And he said, "If it comes out of my shop, it's not going to be a toy. It's going to sound
right.
And so I was like, "Okay." And so he made the first Vinny, and 1 watt, really cool little amp. And I said, "Hey, it'd be really amazing is if you could make an instrument level out for that, so you could plug it into a bigger amp." And so he did that. And then I was in New York City on it was for the Fear the Riff festival that used to be happening there. I was walking down Manhattan, and he calls me, and he's like, "I'm thinking of an idea for an amp." And I was like, "Is it going to be a Vinny into a bigger amplifier?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You should put an effects loop in between the Vinny and the bigger amplifier." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know if I want to do the effects loop." I was like, "This won't be like a normal effects loop because it'll be between 2 amplifiers. It's going to be nothing like this has ever been done before." And then he made the Vincent. So yeah, the Vinny, it was like that conversation happened, and then he took some other ideas and made it. This happens all the time. I'll have a stupid idea, and my smart friends make it cool.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblinssaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day. And that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Business taxes. Was stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on turbotax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live full service.
Right.
That's what happens with it.
Yeah.
So,
I
Vincent
even,
number one.
I can't even believe his journey because, I met him in 2018. It was right when we went on tour for maybe it was 2017, and he was still in the little shop, and I think it was his second little shop, and I brought my guitar called the Lemon, this R9 that's just sick, and we plugged it in, and we got to know each other, and we just became friends, And I got a bunch of T-shirts from him just based on our friendship, and it's also the coolest logo in the history of music.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh my
so
God! And we got tight, and he came down. I gave him all my old Otari multi-track tape machines.
That's where he got them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't even home. We had set it up, and I was on tour, and he came down and he grabbed a couple mixing boards and some Otaris and some other tape machine. It was just stuff that I needed to get out of the garage because I was transforming everything to digital and more of a live room than just a tracking room, where I could play drums and record them and all that stuff. He came and grabbed all that stuff, man. They drove down in a van and got it. But from that point, I remember our initial conversation, we were talking about building gear, and he's like, I can't keep up in any way with what people are ordering. He goes, that's always been his problem is that, I don't want to grow. I don't want to expand. I don't want a bigger, I don't want more employees. I can't keep, the vinyl guys in here that wrap the amps, it's like they come in and out and oh my God, and as the years have gone by since then, which if you think about it, it's really only been 8 years. Now he's got pedals and preamps and amps and just like stuff just flying out. And I know that he's handling it well, but I know that was never his intention.
No.
Man, I want to live on my kind of farm and smoke cigars and have a cool ass amp and cool friends. That's Chris Benson.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I met him. He was the amp tech at Old Town Music in Portland here, and that was my go-to store. That's where I first met him. I still have it. I had a Fender 75 head, which was like one of the last hand-wired Fenders.
Yes.
And it's a rat's nest in there, but it's still hand-wired.
but it does all that stuff.
Does a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But it only does, at the time, it only could do one thing at a time well. It could do a lot of stuff, but if you switch it to high gain, it sounds terrible if you have it set for a good clean sound. You switch it to clean, and you have a good high gain sound, it's going to sound terrible clean. It's switchable, but it's not very switchable, which is why I brought it to him. I'm like, listen, this is a cool amp in theory, but it only does one or the other. And he made it to where it could do both. I don't know what he did to it, but that was he was like, oh, voicing amps, that's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
I was like, and then I saw he had his Monarch up on the shelf, and I was like, what's that? He's like, that's my amp.
Right.
What do you mean your amp? He's like, that's my amp that I designed and built. And I plugged in, and I was like, I'll be ordering one of these soon. I think I have
sounds so good.
I think I have Monarch number 54 or something like that.
Wow. If I wasn't the LA Guns guy, for example, and playing super high gain, shredding, doing LA Guns, hair metal, right? I would probably only be using Benson amps because that's the whole other side of my personality. It's like I'm going to drive the out of this little guy and I'm going to back off the gain on my guitar, get some cool tones, use fuzz pedals, use, more of that mentality, because I'm really dialed into that mentality too, but, buying amps is expensive, and for me to have, a double set of Monarchs or something like that, I just can't justify it because I'm not in a band like that. And I'd like to be in a band like that, but I'm not. And then my other favorite kind of mad scientist like him is Gabriel from Echo Park Guitars. And he's also involved in these GMI amplifiers, PA systems, and his buddy. And those guys are a lot like Chris. You know, like they know their electronics, they know their engineering, but they make stuff that's so good. You know what I mean? Just like, you know, like wow. Like I have this Echo Park fuzz pedal, and the thing that's really cool about it is that it's not really like a tone bender. It's not really like an Octavia. It's not really like a Big Muff, but you can kind of get to all those sounds. It's this F1. People are interested in it, and it has like a diode switch, so you can kind of switch between the things. But I don't have an Octavia, and I hate emulating like the higher, you know, octave, you know, digitally. It just doesn't sound like an Octavia. So there's a setting on this fuzz pedal where you just crank it to the left, like, you know, like if you're in a regular fuzz setting, then you crank it to the left to like 9 o'clock. All of a sudden, it's an Octavia.
Nice.
You know, and so like, but that's the brain. You know, these guys like Chris Benson and Gabriel, they have that kind of brain where they think like my Echo Park guitar. He calls it Clarence. That's the name of that guitar. He put the rear tone knob that fades the neck pickup into single coil. So it's not like a coil split where you just push, pull a pot. You can fade in how much, and you know how much single coil and how much humbucker there is.
That's cool.
And I use it. You know, all my other stuff is like Jimmy Page wiring, but this is the way to go because you just blend it how much you want it. And it's kind of, you can get it in a spot if you have both pickups on where it starts to sound like it's slightly out of phase. So you don't get the full quack.
Yeah.
But you get a little quack, which to me is a lot better than all of a sudden your guitar going from junk, 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 junk to quack, 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 quack.
Right.
Quack. You know, so, you know, these are the kind of people that Brian Wampler, you know, Dave Friedman, you know, being able to talk to all these guys, you know, like I'd like to say I learned stuff from them, but I can't really absorb their IQ. You know, their IQ is so high and they know exactly what they're talking about, like the same way I guess I know my way around a fretboard. You know, but I love hearing about it.
Mm-hmm. It's cool to talk to anybody, even if you don't really fully grasp what it is, or even sometimes when you're not even that interested, but anybody that really knows a lot about something. Yeah. Even if it's like tennis balls or something, it's like, you know, you can make the mundane very interesting if you know every single little detail about it. All of a sudden, golf balls become interesting. Like, you never know. I never thought, I mean, that's how I got into the string world. Was Scott came on the podcast 10 years ago or 8 years ago, whatever it was. And he sent me a DM and he said, "Hey, I'd love to come on your show." And it was brand new at the time. I think he came on episode 20. Okay. And I was like, in my brain, I literally thought, we're going to talk about strings for an hour? How is that going to work? Fast forward to now, I talk to him pretty much every working day for at least an hour, usually more like 3. Mostly about guitar strings and how to make them better or make more of them or, you know, whatever it is we're talking about, you know, and he's my partner in that business. And it all came from something that I thought would have been the most boring subject of all time to where like, oh no, now I'm obsessed with this. Like, I never thought I would get obsessed with string construction, but here I am.
It's in the details, man. Anything cool is in the details.
Mm-hmm.
You know? The things that you know we take for granted. And thank you. I just got my package of Stringjoy strings for the first time.
I'm excited to hear what you think.
Yeah. It'll be the first time I've used a 9.5 set, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we can adjust things from there too. Our roots rather as a custom shop. So if we want to mess around more, we can mess around more. So just let me know.
Kick ass. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, hey, we are getting close to the end of the main episode, And I have two classic questions I like to wrap all of these episodes up with, especially if somebody's coming on for the first time. But before I do, I like to give the guests a chance to take the floor. And you're talking to a few thousand people right now. You can shout out anybody you want to shout out, plug anything you want to plug, or say anything you want to say. The floor is yours.
Wow. Well, I guess I'll take this time to think more about the people watching this, and maybe these little items that I kind of collected here can answer some questions for some people, because I'm boring. I'm just a guitar player, but I have information.
Yeah, information is good.
This is an original mid-'60s Vox tone bender.
Oh my goodness.
Whoa. The sound of the 60s. And I highly recommend, if you want to get a real tone bender sound like Smashing Pumpkins, for example, you can buy other ones that are kind of cloney of it, but nothing beats this. This is How Many More Times by Jimmy Page. Okay, there's that. But that's way more expensive than the cool stuff I'm going to show you. So,
okay.
The most controversial pedal on the internet right now is the Pod Express.
Is it the most controversial?
Well, people are like, it's cheap, it's plastic, it's stupid, it's little. I don't know. It's not real. It's like, this is the greatest thing that I own as a tool. Okay. It's an amp, it's pedals, and you can add 2 more buttons to it. And everybody should have this little Amp Pro switch if you're in the digital live guy thing, because this really opens things up. Okay, I highly recommend the Pod Express. And then, of course, this one, people don't believe that this is as awesome as it is. It's the Boss amp and cabinet, the IR2.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible. Just absolutely, you're a stud if you dial this in correctly. Mm-hmm. And these are all things under $500, pretty much. Super underrated Brian pedal. The Triumph.
Yeah, the Triumph.
This is, my thing that I've used since they came out are the original Japanese-made SD1 into your favorite Marshall. It avoids you having to do any modifications to your Marshall. Okay. Do not buy the Taiwanese one. It doesn't sound like that. But the Waza does. So that's that.
Okay.
But then Brian had to make this. And what this does is you can get your SD1 sound like really cloney. You can get right there, but it's quieter. You can get all that gain without the hiss. There's still, of course, hiss, but not like those. And it's got another function or another voicing that is great. It's more like a Soldano kind of thing, maybe. I don't know. But I really like it the way that I use it. Highly recommended. I'm not even sure if he makes them anymore, but they were only $100 when they came out, so I can't imagine they'd be any more than that now. Northern Creeper by Daredevil. Man.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
If you want, this is like just into a clean amp. It's that super nasty. Into an overdriven amp. It's Tony Iommi. It's sick.
And it's got a cool name.
It does. It's the Northern Creeper.
Yes.
Of course, the Blammo Chibson priority delay. If you want just an analog delay with a 1 second, length, no bells, no whistles. This is killer.
With some of the branding is so fun.
It's the best branding, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so getting to the end here. Let's stay on delays for a second. This is made by a Danish company from my hometown over there, Aarhus. A company called Emma Electronic.
Yes.
This is the Navigator pedal. It's got 2 different delay times in one, and I'm talking to Jan. He's the guy that owned the Orchestra Ground over there, the music store.
Okay.
But he also owns Emma. So, you can split your delays into 2 different times, doing the same kind of thing. And it has modulation and tap. So it really does stuff. Yeah, All his pedals are killer. Just letting you know about that one.
Yeah,
But
I'm glad you
one.
brought that up. We talked about it on Chasing Tone, but every time Emma comes up, I have to bring up the Pizdiyawa because it is one of the best high gain distortion pedals ever. I've had it for years, and it's insane. It's so good.
And let me tell you something about Yan. He doesn't care about high gain.
Really?
He's a bass player, right? so when he does stuff, he just goes off of like suggestion, like hey Yan, make me a pedal that does this, and he can listen to something because I know what that is, and then he does like that. That's why they have funny names, because he doesn't really care.
I love that. That's so good.
Great sense of humor. Okay, here's the end of the road. So everybody wants a plexi pedal, and a lot of people get close, but Love Pedal, I don't even think they make these anymore. This is the purple plexi pedal. Mm-hmm. You plug it into a Fender Deluxe or a Silvertone or anything like that, and it sounds like a plexi. It is just great. I have a 2-channel one as well. And then, last but not least, I've recorded a few records with this stupid little pedal. It's the Moore, I don't even know what it's called. It's Amp 002, but it's definitely modeled after like a 900.
Okay.
And it's got 2 channels and a speaker emulator in it. And I think they still make them, and they're probably like $70 or something. This is absolutely amazing.
Really?
Yeah. And then next up, I'm moving from Headrush because I don't know what happened to them. And I'm getting a retail value pedal board from Valaton, on recommendation from a bunch of people. That's an amp modeler, multi-effects, 8 buttons, all that stuff. And I'm getting it Friday, and that's what I'm going to be using. And I just want people to be comfortable with using things that cost $350,
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I think that my thing is, and it always will be, if it sounds good, it is good. And it doesn't matter how much it costs. It doesn't matter if it's cool, quote unquote, or not. If you like how it sounds and it does the thing you need it to do and it doesn't break, then you're good. That's all. That's all. What more can you ask for?
That's it. And that's where it ends. But as hobbyists and enthusiasts, we still want to see the piles of awesomeness on stage.
Well, I can't say that that's not true. I love seeing the piles of awesomeness.
Of course. We're addicted to it.
Yeah, and I'm fine with it. It's how I live my life. It's got me this far. Why
I'm
stop?
glad Hendrix didn't have a Headrush. I'll put it that way.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad that Sun, the band, has all those amps on stage. That makes me happy.
I love that band.
Yeah,
man. I go to sleep just listening to Sun.
That's perfect.
I just love it.
I'll have to send you my solo record then. That'll put you really
nice.
To sleep.
I'm into it already. If that's the segue, yes.
Yeah. All right. Final 2 questions. Here we go.
All right.
First one. What is, and you may have just answered it, your favorite Boss pedal?
Ooh, my favorite Boss pedal. Well, the SD1, right? I don't have an OD one yet. I've never had one. I keep being told that I'm going to actually prefer that pedal because I use the SD1 not to only boost the gain, but to smooth out the top end.
Yes.
And apparently the OD one has no tone control, and they have it dialed in perfectly to work with a JMP. It's supposed to be just amazing. So maybe the OD one might be. And the other pedal is the one that I don't have anymore, is the Boss DD3 delay. Oh yeah, which love is a DD3. It's the holy grail of digital delays, and I just don't. I don't know why I don't have 3 of them right now. They sound so good. I've got the old DD2 and the DD3 long chip, and I've taken them apart and looked, and I've A/B'd them side by side. I am convinced. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm not an electronics guy per se. I am convinced that the DD2 and the early version of the DD3 are the same pedal. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't be. You know what I mean? Because oftentimes people just rebrand things to sell more. But the thing, I'll tell you what why that's my favorite delay, other than an Echoplex. But I don't have a working Echoplex right now. I have a bunch of trashed Echoplexes. But the DD3, it's the only pedal I've been able to put in front of a Marshall that kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't freak out and do weird. I don't know why that's the pedal that does it the best, but it does. You can run a DD3 in front of a JCM 800, no problem.
All right, here we go. Final question.
Okay.
What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big one.
My favorite kind of pizza. All right. Well, in Denmark, the pizza isn't like it is here. It's very thin and very small and like more of a personal size.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one over there that just has prosciutto and burrata and Parmesan baked on top.
Oh.
That's the one, man. That's my favorite pizza.
That sounds awesome.
It's delicious.
Ugh.
And get this, delivered, it's only $8.
$8?
Delivered.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. It's incredible.
I think I need to go to Denmark. That sounds great.
I got my place. When you're ready to go, let me know. I'll go with you or I'll give you the keys.
Hey, I might genuinely take you up on that. That sounds like a good time.
It's a good time.
All right. Well, let's see what kind of shenanigans we can get into on Patreon. I got some dumb questions to ask you over there. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, everybody. For Tracii, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, guess what? There's more over on Patreon, and it's real good. We get real nerdy. We get real existential. We get extraterrestrial, as we so often do over there. I think you're really going to like it, and for $5 a month, you help keep the lights on around here, and you get extra bonus content. It's been $5 a month for years, literally since it started. So while eggs are getting expensive, at least your entertainment is getting, as far as inflation goes, cheaper, actually. But seriously, it makes a huge difference. Thank you to everybody who supports over there. It is a big, big deal, even though it may not seem like it. It really, really moves the needle. And you also get access to ad-free episodes over there. That's where you can get the ad-free versions as well. So $5 a month gets you ad-free feed and bonus episodes every single week. There is a ton of content. You know how long I've been doing this. There is a ton of content over there. So please, if you can, even for a short time, it would really, really mean a lot. Thank you to everybody who does. And if you can't do that, I totally understand. Like I said, eggs are expensive. So do the free thing and share this with somebody. The other free thing you can do is go watch some of my stuff on YouTube. I've been putting up these episodes over on YouTube now for a little while. I don't have all of them, but I've got more and more all the time. And if you could, just go watch one of those. Leave it a thumbs up, or a heart. That's right. Do your part, leave a heart. I think that's the move, right? Leave a comment. Any of that stuff really does move the needle. Interact with the show any way you can on whatever platform you are absorbing the content on. It really does move the needle. Thank you so much. I've said move the needle like 14 times on this outro. I think maybe I need to stop. Okay, let's get out of here. You guys have a good one. Talk to you on the internet very soon.